The cafeteria buzzed under the late morning sun that spilled through tall windows, painting long stripes of daylight across the tables where students laughed, ate, and scrolled on their phones. No one expected anything unusual that day. No one imagined the moment that would soon freeze the entire room in shock, nor the act of cruelty that would echo through the halls long after the plates were cleared. And certainly no one expected that the person who stood at the center of it all, the quiet, observant new school director, Dr. Mariah Ellington, would become the symbol of a transformation none of them knew they desperately needed. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that change hearts, then please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Dr. Ellington had arrived only 2 weeks earlier, stepping into a school known for chaos, entitlement, and a culture that had slowly rotted from the inside. Students whispered that teachers were exhausted, rules didn't matter, and respect was something forgotten long ago. She noticed at the moment she walked the halls on her first day, eyes that avoided hers, laughter that carried bitterness and silence from those who were silently hurting. She understood this world deeply because she had grown up in a place just like it, fighting her way through the noise of being underestimated at every step. Her presence was calm but firm, and though she moved gently, something in her eyes told a deeper story, a story of surviving storms and choosing still to lead with compassion. But compassion, in places broken by cruelty, is often mistaken for weakness. And no student represented that belief more loudly than Bradley Hunt, the 17-year-old whose arrogance was fueled by privilege, popularity, and a long trail of teachers who had given up trying to discipline him. Bradley strutted through the halls as if they belonged to him with the confidence of someone who had never been told no in his life. The cafeteria was his stage, the students his spectators, and trouble his performance. That morning, several students had watched Bradley push a smaller freshman against a locker, laughing as the boy stumbled to pick up his scattered books. When Dr. Ellington arrived to intervene, Bradley smirked, rolled his eyes, and walked away as if she were invisible. To him, she was just another adult who would eventually back down. But that assumption shattered at lunch. Dr. Ellington sat alone at the end of a long blue table, reviewing notes on student conduct and trying to plan new programs that could rebuild the broken culture of the campus. She had barely taken 2 bites of her salad when she heard the sharp scrape of a shoe across the floor, followed by a murmur from the crowd. She looked up just in time to see Bradley stepping toward her, jaw clenched, face twisted with the kind of anger young people wear when they are really just afraid of losing control. The cafeteria grew silent as he raised his voice, yelling something about her, ruining everything, claiming she had no right to tell him how to behave, shouting things she had heard 1,000 times before from broken systems and misunderstood youth. She remained calm, her hands resting on the table, her eyes steady. But then in one shocking moment, Bradley lifted his leg and aimed a kick at her shoulder. The room gasped, phones rose, food trays clattered, the world seemed to freeze. Dr. Ellington didn't fight back, she didn't shout, didn't panic, didn't even flinch. She simply reached up, steadying herself, and looked directly at Bradley, not with fear, but with a kind of sorrow that pierced deeper than anger ever could. And that look alone made several students shift. Uncomfortably, she stood slowly, smoothing her blazer while Bradley waited, expecting the eruption, the fury, the punishment he thought he deserved. He wanted a battle, he needed the drama, but what he got was something so powerful that even he couldn't comprehend it. Instead of punishment, she chose truth. She spoke to him not as a director to a student, but as a survivor to a wounded soul. She talked about growing up where violence was language, where cruelty was common, where people judged her by her skin before hearing her voice. She told him that anger was not strength, that dominance was not respect, and that every person who hurt others was usually carrying a hurt no one had ever asked about. Her words fell softly, quietly, but with the weight of lived reality. The cafeteria listened, unmoving, as though the sunlight itself had paused to hear her. Bradley looked confused at first, then annoyed, then something no one had ever seen in him before. Uncertain, she ended her words with a simple sentence that pierced the silence like light through smoke. "You don't need to be this version of yourself. You are more than the pain you're hiding." Then she did something unimaginable. She offered him a chance, not forgiveness without responsibility, but a chance to rebuild himself from the ashes of the person he had been pretending to be. She told him she wouldn't expel him unless he refused to try. She invited him to join a new leadership program she was starting, one specifically designed for troubled students to learn empathy, discipline, and responsibility. Whispers rose, some laughed, some stared, and Bradley, overwhelmed, did the only thing he could do. He ran out of the cafeteria before anyone could see his face twist with emotions he had buried for years. Over the next weeks, daylight warmed the hallways differently. Students watched as Bradley began showing up after school, not to cause trouble, but to help with community projects drive. Ellington had created. He sat quietly in group discussions, sometimes angry, sometimes silent, sometimes unexpectedly honest about things he had never told anyone, about his father's abandonment, about feeling invisible despite his popularity, about the fear that he would never matter beyond his reputation. Slowly, painfully, but surely, he changed. The cafeteria, once a place of mockery and dominance, became a place of new conversations, new support systems, new beginnings. And every time Bradley walked past Drive, Ellington, there was a silent acknowledgement, a gratitude he didn't know how to speak, and a trust she didn't need him to explain. One bright afternoon, during an assembly filled with students who had once doubted her, Drive, Ellington stepped onto the stage. She didn't speak about rules or punishments. She spoke about grace, transformation, and the courage it takes to choose a better path. Bradley stood behind her, assisting with the presentation. And when she finished, the entire school rose in applause, not for her authority, but for her humanity. Her next move had truly silenced the school, not with fear, but with hope. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner to keep these powerful stories alive. And before the ending, tell us in the comments, do you believe people can truly change if someone shows them compassion?